Wednesday whatnot. We got Micah's snowblower. And this is where I got two spots. See the Spain? I'm hoping that everybody's got their Trump tax return and they're going to be rich tomorrow. And they're going to say, well, how about I spend some money? This is your option. I got two more people. I got an idea. We're going to have two more people come and see the missionaries with us. Palm Sunday today. Happy Palm Sunday. This is, you know how the liturgy, no, the lectionary, the readings every Sunday, how they speed through the life of Jesus, but now, this week, they slow down to such a degree that they go actual speed. So the things that happened today, I gotta sneeze. Ooh. The things that happened today are the things that happened on Palm Sunday 1,000, how many years ago? What's that? 1,990 something years ago. It's the anniversary. And tomorrow is the anniversary of Holy Monday, Holy Tuesday, Holy Wednesday, and then we got Monday, Thursday, Good Friday. This is all this week. So that our life in the church slows down to actual speed. It's amazing to think about and to consider this. Now, one of the things that I'll have to put this in the link down below, and that is that we want to note that that we can track through the events of Holy Week because they're recorded for us so carefully in the Gospels. So I'll put a chart of the events of Holy Week. I'll tag it, and someone remind me. I always forget that kind of stuff. But like a fourth of the Gospel of Matthew, a fourth of the Gospel of Mark and Luke, a third of the Gospel of John, almost half of the Gospel of John tells us about the things that happened in Holy Week. It's just incredible. And just to kind of survey it, so on Palm Sunday, on Sunday, Jesus comes into Jerusalem. We'll talk about that more in a minute. And then he looks around and he leaves. And Holy Monday, he comes back, he curses the fig tree, he cleanses the temple second time. He goes back to Bethany. Holy Tuesday comes back from Bethany. They see the cursed fig trees. Now it's shriveled up. So he just demolished the fig tree. It's not a good day for that fig tree. And it's a parable of Israel, man, oh man. And then Jesus teaches on Holy Tuesday is when he has the big debate in the temple with the guys. They talk about who are you going to be married to in the resurrection? What's the greatest commandment? Should you pay taxes? And then Jesus says, well, whose son is the Messiah? That great question. They don't know what to do. They're confounded. That gas station is where I wanted to go. There's a good chance that this might be a Sunday hitchhike home if I don't get to the gas station quickly. Sorry. So then on Tuesday they have this debate, and then they're leaving the temple on Holy Tuesday, and that's when the widow's there with the mite, and they say, and Jesus gets off of the Pharisees' case because they were just stealing from all the old ladies. And then they go and they leave, and the disciples are saying, look how big the rocks are in the temple, and Jesus says, I'll tear it all down, and when are these things going to be? So they get up to the top of the Mount of Olives, and Jesus tells them about the destruction of Jerusalem, and then you can't even see the Spain. And tells them about the destruction of Jerusalem and the second coming, mixes all that up together. Then Holy Wednesday, we don't know what happens, and on Holy Thursday, they're back in town from Bethany to Jerusalem for the Lord's Supper. And washing his disciples' feet, that all happens in the upper room, and then Gethsemane, the arrest, and all the events of Good Friday unfold from there, and so forth. Again, I'll put the chart in the links. It's a nice thing to do this week is to say, well, what happened on Holy Monday? Oh, this is when the, et cetera, et cetera. Now, to the Palm Sunday business, we want to remember that Jesus' ministry has it goes in chunks. So you have what's called the early Judean. That's like the first stuff. That's the visit with Nicodemus, the baptism of Jesus, and all that sort of stuff. That's the early Judean. And then the most of a year and a half, 2.5 years of Jesus' ministry is the Galilean ministry. And then he's back down to Jerusalem, but it's more like he's at Perea. Perea is the region that's on the east side of the Jordan River down there, where John was baptized and everything else like this. And he's down there, and they're down there on the other side of the Jordan River from the city of Jericho and everything. And they hear that Lazarus had died. And Jesus loved Lazarus. I mean, he really cared for him deeply, and he's weeping. They see Jesus crying, and they say, see how he loved him. I think this is, just as a side note, I think everyone that I talk to about this finds it helpful to remember that if Jesus is weeping over someone who dies, then that means that when we weep over someone who dies, we're not sinning. In fact, we're doing a good work. I was talking to a couple people this week, and they're just in the throes of mourning the death of people that they love, and they feel bad because they're crying all the time. And I said, look, this is a lot of good works that you're doing. I mean, our mourning the death of the people that we love is the way that we love them when they're not here, when the Lord takes them from us. And we just have to watch out that our love for those that are gone and died doesn't stop us from loving the people that are still here. I see a gas station. That's good. So Jesus comes up to Lazarus, to Bethany, and remember how that goes. That there's so the Mount Zion is here, and that's where Jerusalem is, and then there's the valley, the Kidron Valley there, and then Mount of Olives is there, and Bethany's on the other side of the Mount of Olives. So Bethany's over here. So to get into Jerusalem, Jesus has to go over the Mount of Olives, down through the Kidron Valley, then up into Jerusalem like this. You kind of got the picture like this. So Jesus comes up from Perea to visit Lazarus, and the disciples say, now, Lord, we can't, they want to kill you. If you go up to Jerusalem, they're going to kill you. And Jesus can't be stopped. I got to go, and I got to raise Lazarus from the dead. So they go up there. Thomas says, well, if he dies, he dies. Let's go. So they go up there, and they raise Lazarus, and something happens in Bethany. All the people are there. They know Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. They love them, apparently. They were there while they're mourning at the funeral, and they're trying to comfort Mary. And remember, Martha meets Mary, and I am the resurrection and the life. And then he calls, and Mary comes out. So Martha meets Jesus, and then Mary comes out, and the whole crowd follows, and they think that he's going to the tomb. And they go to meet Jesus, and they go to the tomb. And so the whole crowd, all the people from Bethany are there when Jesus calls Lazarus out of the grave. So they see it, so that there's this strong following of Jesus in Bethany. And so there's this you got to think of it like a rebellion in some ways is being incited over here in Bethany. In Jerusalem, the Pharisees are keeping an eye on it because all these people are starting to follow after Jesus and everything. So when Jesus goes now, a couple of months later, back up for the Passover, he stays with Mary and Martha and Lazarus in Bethany. And that's where the triumphal entry on Palm Sunday starts in Bethany. And then Jesus goes back and forth from Bethany to Jerusalem every day, Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, then Thursday, etc. So they start in Bethany, and Jesus sends the disciples down to Bethphage, which we don't know where it is. So he goes down to Bethphage. Bethphage looks like Bethphage. I think Bethphage is the right way to say it. And the disciples get the donkey, and they go and they bring it back, and this whole crowd from Bethany comes with Jesus over there to go down the hill, down to the and go on the triumphal entry. Now, it seems like, though, that these people are all related to each other, so there's a bunch of people also in Jerusalem, and they hear about it, and so they come and join. So you have the crowd coming from Bethany with Jesus, and the palms and the trees and everything else like this. And then you have the crowd that comes out from Jerusalem to meet them. And the children are singing, and they're all singing the Psalm 118, the Song of David, Hosanna in the highest, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, and so forth. So they go to, and the crowds are kind of mixed. And in part of the crowd that comes from Jerusalem, it has the Pharisees in it. Now that's when things get a bit sketchy. Because the Pharisees have been plotting against Jesus the whole time, and most especially now that Lazarus is raised from the dead, the Pharisees are angry. I mean, they're afraid, and they're angry, and they're just anti-Jesus. They want to get rid of this guy. So the Pharisees, you can imagine, here they come out from Jerusalem, they go down the mountain, they come up, they hear Jesus is coming, he's riding, it's a big deal, it's a procession and everything. They're going to go check it out, and they come over the top of the mountain, and they look down, and they see Jesus, and they say, "What? Are you kidding me? What are all these people doing? What are they singing? Hosanna in the highest? Who does this guy think that he is? He's presenting himself like the Messiah." So they come up to Jesus on the donkey, and they stop, and they try to get him to quiet these guys down. They say, "Teacher, tell your disciples to be quiet." And Jesus says, this is so great. I mean, I just imagine what the Pharisees must have thought when Jesus says, he says, "Look, I'll tell you guys what, if these guys didn't sing, then the rocks would make a choir and start singing." The praises of Jesus can't be stopped. I don't actually know where I am right now. I think I'm close to where I'm supposed to be, but so the Pharisees leave upset. Probably, I mean, I imagine that would have stung them, and they would have been thinking about that all week as they're sitting there plotting on how to kill Jesus, how to put him to death and stuff. Let's try this way. And then Jesus comes down over the hill. It's amazing to think about. He comes down over the hill. And when you do that, when you go over the top of the Mount of Olives and you start coming down into Jerusalem, the whole place opens up before you. Maybe I'll try to find a video of that. You can see the mount, you can see the Temple Mount on the top, and you see the whole city kind of stretched out there in the valley down below and everything like this. And Jesus sees it, and he just starts weeping. Just weeps. And he's not weeping. He's not weeping because he has to go and die on the cross. He's not weeping for himself. He's weeping over Jerusalem. He's weeping over their unbelief. He says, if you would have just known this the day of your visitation, but you did not. And so now not one stone is going to be left on top of you. All these beautiful limestone buildings. She can be torn down, but it's not the buildings that Jesus cares about, it's the people. He's going to go and die for their sins, and he knows that some of them are not going to know it. Some of them are not going to have the benefit for it. And he just tears them up. There's a little chapel there now. And the chapel has a mosaic of a chicken with the little chicks under the wings, because Jesus says, "Oh, how I long to gather you together like a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing." You were not willing. That same chapel has a beautiful window, and you look through it, has the Dome of the Rock, and if you sit right where you're supposed to sit, there's actually a cross that kind of X's out the Dome of the Rock. It's kind of an amazing thing to see. And then Jesus continues on into the city, a triumphal entry. We call it the triumphal entry. One of the things that we have to note is that it's a matter of humility. Jesus is not coming on a war horse, or, would have been my preference, an elephant, like Alexander the Great or something. He doesn't do that. He comes in this donkey, on the animal of peace. Because he comes not to, this is the point, he comes not to kill, but to be killed. He comes not to destroy, but to be destroyed. We sing it in the hymn, "Ride on, in majesty, in lowly pomp, ride on to die." Because Jesus is coming to Jerusalem not to conquer, but to be conquered. Not to triumph, but to be tried and crucified and dead and buried. But look, this is his glory. The crucifixion is his glory. Jesus says, now the Son of Man is glorified. Now the Son of Man is lifted up. And this is the point. The glory of Jesus is his death on the cross. Well, I found where I'm going. That better be Sunday drive home.
Get to making with jive, boy. Stay sharp. When it hits you, yes, in the air.